we're going to talk about the doll experiment. One of the most famous studies in social psychology conducted by psychologists in 1940s called doll experiment. Their research became historically important because it was later cited in the U.S. Supreme Court ruling was between Brown versus the Board of Education in 1954, when the court ruled that the racial segregation in schools was unconstitutional. So now, in the in the experiment, black children aged 3 to 7 were shown two identical dolls except for the skin color, and they were asked a series of questions. For example, which doll is pretty, which doll is bad, which doll is ugly, and which doll looks like you. So what happened is significant number of black children chose the white doll as a pretty doll, nice doll, and the ugly doll was the black doll. And many of them hesitated when they were asked which doll looks like you. This really shocked the researchers because the research actually suggested that from that very young children at a very young age had already internalized racial hierarchies. So why did this happen? Let's get into the psychological explanation for it. So children absorb signals from their environment, media, school material, social status of groups, and adult attitudes. If society repeatedly associate whiteness with success, beauty, or power, children begin to internalize those values even before they fully understand race. According to social learning theory, children learn by observing who is praised, who is respected, and who holds authority. When children repeatedly see one group portrayed positively and another negatively, their brain starts building unconscious associations. Between the age of 3 to 7, between the ages 3 to 7, children are forming their identity and self-worth. If the environment signals that their own group is inferior, they unconsciously are going to adopt to the dominant group as the ideal self. This creates what psychologists call internalized bias or internalized racism. The brain naturally categorizes people into groups. In psychology, this relates to something we call it implicit bias. Implicit biases can form very early on, even before children can explain why they think in a certain way. Here's an important follow-up findings. Later studies showed something hopeful. When children grow up in an environment, and this is important, where diversity is normalized, positive role models exist, and representation is balanced. Now, their preference become much more balanced and internalized bias decreases. There is a deeper human lesson. The Clark study revealed something profound about human mind. Children are not born with hatred or prejudice. They absorb the moral atmosphere around them. A child's mind is like a wet clay. Society's messages shape it long before the child realizes what is happening. I will be explaining something even more fascinating in some of future videos. I'm going to talk about modern replication of the doll experiment from 2000 to 2020, what neuroscience now says about how prejudice forms in the brain, and why children can absorb social hierarchies even before the age of 5. Psychology behind it is surprisingly deep. Please stay tuned.